Hey, what's up, Heidi? Thanks so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be on our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Yeah, we're super pumped and we can't
Yes.
wait to learn everything you know about marketing strategies. But before we do, can you let our listeners know who you are, what you do, and what your favorite drink is?
Oh, okay. So, my business is called Evolve Your Wedding Business. And for the past 12 years, I've been helping wedding professionals of really all different kinds attract and book more of the clients that they really want to be working with and do it without having to work, 60, 80-hour work weeks, which becomes way too common in our industry. Yeah, so that's kind of my jam. I'm a huge marketing nerd, and my favorite drink.
Yeah.
I'm a beer fan, but I have to say, like, if I had to choose something and probably only have that forever, I never get sick of a pina colada.
Hey, there we go.
Nice. Tropical vibes. Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Pina
Uh,
coladas.
I'm so excited to get into marketing with you because as you mentioned, it's something a lot of us in the wedding industry kind of lack on and struggle with.
I think all of us do.
Yeah, being creatives, like we're not necessarily naturally good at sales and marketing and all of that. So, yeah, excited to dive in. But first, I'd love to get a little bit of an insight on your journey. How did you find out you wanted to specialize in the wedding industry marketing?
So it's one of those like winding paths that only makes sense when you look back on it. I got into events doing nonprofit work when I was in college, and I loved doing those events. And then through that, I got into the wedding industry. I worked for a planner. I started planning myself, and it became apparent to me that the thing that I enjoyed most wasn't the event planning side of it. It was the getting people to the fundraiser, getting them to care, getting them to want to be a part of the organizations that I was working with.
Right.
So I randomly fell into a marketing temp job, God, like ages ago, realized I loved it, all while keeping a pulse on the wedding industry. I was living in the UK at the time where my husband's from,
Cool.
and I saw an opportunity to, this was in like 2011, 2012, like really the advent of more personalization into the wedding space with like Offbeat Bride and Rock and Roll Bride.
Hmm.
Nobody was really doing that in a physical medium in the UK. So I
Mhm.
put together wedding shows where I would bring together these vendors doing just insanely creative, incredible things and couples who wanted something different. And that's when I found, like, all my years in working in marketing and just enjoying this, that's weird. That's not normal. And I assumed everybody knew this stuff. All of these business owners knew this stuff. And I was spending so much time helping them get a good return on their investment and kind of
Mm.
coaching them for like what to do, before the show, at the show, after the show, that I was like, oh, I guess I should kind of bring these worlds together and I can help these people who are just so incredibly talented. And like, if you were paid purely just on that, you would have all the money in the world. But you need the marketing and sales side too. So I was able to kind
Yes.
of find that balance of those two career tracks and kind of merge them together.
That's super cool. I love that journey. But now I want to jump into the nitty gritty. Let's get into defining a marketing plan, Heidi. So, for wedding vendors who might be new to marketing, what exactly is a marketing plan and why is it crucial to
So,
success?
yeah, and that's a great question. So, I'm not talking about something like a formal business plan where you're going to
Hmm.
like write all these pages and then it's going to just die in a drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm talking about making all of the decisions around who you're marketing to, what you need to be communicating, how you're going to do that, which specific tactics and strategies are you going to use, and how are you going to continue to do more of what works and less of what doesn't, so that your marketing gets continually easier over time. So really what your marketing plan is, it's part research, but it's mostly making the decisions around, okay, who am I going to attract? Who do I want to book more of? What do I need to be communicating? How exactly am I going to do that? And then, okay, this works, I'm going to do more of this. This doesn't work, I'm going to do less of it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay. And so this is something that you're basically like there to kind of guide them through. Because like when I think about it, it's kind of just like over my head, kind of like an afterthought that I'm like, I know I need to do that,
Yes.
but
Yes. And that's
where do
what
I
everybody does.
start?
It's like you have the kind of random acts of marketing where you realize you haven't done anything for a
Yeah.
Yeah.
minute. And then you're like, okay, I guess I need to like create something and throw it up on Instagram.
Hmm.
But doing that kind of random marketing work tends to get kind of random results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what we really start with is, okay, who is this specific person? And I'm not a big fan of a lot of ideal client exercises that have you like make someone up.
Yeah.
What I do love doing is looking at who have you actually worked with that you would love to be able to work with again and again and again. And then we can
Right.
build this whole thing around that actual existing human being that you know is real and that you can actually talk to.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I like how you mentioned that. Us, like, I think a lot of us think for marketing is just let's just post on Instagram, let's just put whatever on our sites or whatnot. But there's like way more to it than just that.
I think the thing that interests me most about marketing is the fact that it is psychology. Like you have to understand a person well enough to understand, what's going on in their head so you can present what you have as a solution to
Hmm.
that. And that just makes selling so much easier because you're not really selling at that point. It's like, oh, hey, I know you have this problem. Hey, I know you have a headache. Like, here's some Advil. You're
Yeah.
providing a solution to that. And not only does that feel better, but it makes the entire process work better. And what most people lack is the real understanding of what their particular people care about. And I'm absolutely guilty of this too. I think we're just way too close to our own business to be able to see it,
Hmm.
objectively. And we're always wrong. We're always wrong, at least to some degree. Even anytime in my own business where I'm like, no, I know exactly what I need to communicate here. If I go and check, if I go and ask people, like, okay, what are you really struggling with right now? What, problems are you having? It's always a bit different. And if we can focus on getting that information directly from them, and I can give you guys a download that'll help your listeners do this. It just gives you the words to say. It's incredible. It's like it feels like cheating, but it's very simply
Yeah.
talking to the people who you want to serve, or perhaps you've already served, and looking at, okay, this is what they actually care about. I need to be focusing more on this in my marketing.
That I love the just like the whole idea of that. Like you said, we always picture our ideal clients as this imaginary person.
Yeah.
But actually thinking of like, okay, I really enjoyed working with this couple. I want to do that more. And so you're suggesting actually taking those questions and asking that couple, so to
Yeah.
speak. Yeah.
Yeah. What I have my clients do is I have them, approach their favorite people and pretty much tell them that. Like, you guys are incredible. If I could work with you guys every weekend, I would be the happiest person in the world, but I can't because you guys don't get married every weekend.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I want to find more people like you, usually with that kind of genuine honesty and quite frankly, flattery. They're going to be like, yeah, I'll answer some questions. Sure, I'm special.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned earlier. You said something about being too close to your business and like not. Can you go into that more? Like, what do you mean? Like, people are like too in stuck in their own ways in their head and they can't see past what they
I
want
don't
to
even think
portray.
it's that. I think it's a perception thing. It's like something that I fully do not understand is like how muralists work for this
Yeah.
exact reason. If you are up against a wall and you are painting like 100-foot tall mural, I don't know how you get that full
Right.
picture. But that's exactly what we're doing in our business every day. And you can't zoom out
Hmm.
because you're right there. You're
Yeah.
the one doing the work. And I think we become convinced we know what people want, and we do to a degree, but not enough to a degree to make it differentiate us, to make our marketing really stand out and really have someone see it and feel like, oh my God, yes, this is
Mm,
exactly the person that I want to work
I like that. That was pretty deep.
Hmm.
Okay. All right, man, I could just go on that for days, but let's get into some essential components for a marketing plan. So, what are some like essential elements of an effective marketing plan for wedding vendors? Could you break down some of the key components?
Yeah, so we start with the person. We start with figuring out what are they struggling with? What do they care about? What's most important to them? We interview them, get this actual verbiage out of their mouth so that when you move on to the next part of like, okay, what do I need to say? You can actually be using the words of the people that you're serving because they don't talk like us. We talk about like our craft in a certain way that
Yeah,
only, other planners, other photographers, other videographers talk about it that way. But
Right.
clients don't talk about it that way. They talk about, their photographer as, I was really worried. Me and my partner both feel super awkward when we're taking
yeah, yeah,
photos, and we
yeah.
wanted someone that we knew would make us feel better about that. That's never something, either of us are going to say
Yeah.
about our work and to describe our work, but it is the thing that really connects and helps differentiate you. So getting really clear on that person, that's the foundation of everything. And then that person tells you, okay, these are the things you need to be talking about. So if you have, let's say you're a planner and your client more than anything cares about guest experience and making it a really fun atmosphere and having it not be like anyone else.
Hmm.
Well, automatically that starts to put a filter on of, okay, I could create some Instagram posts that highlight that in this kind of way and that kind of way. I could create blog posts. So it kind of starts to taper your field of view in to what actually matters to them.
Hmm.
And then we get into, which is where everyone jumps to, is like, okay, how? How are we
Yeah.
going to do this? What
Yeah.
specific platforms are we going to use? What are we going to do on those specific platforms? Are there certain strategies you need to use on this platform that you don't use on that platform? Like actually mapping out over the next 90 days, at the 30-day mark, I'm going to have this completed, at the 60-day mark, at the 90-day mark. And then, like, what are those rotating things that happen? So maybe
Hmm.
you work best creating all your content at once. So you dedicate a day at the beginning of each month to go through and create all of that. But you're following the decisions you made. So if you are looking at, okay, what has worked for me? Maybe referrals, maybe SEO, and maybe Instagram. Okay, let's stick to those. What specifically am I going to do on Instagram? how many times a week, what sorts of posts. Like, let's take all the decision making out of it. So that when it comes to actually make the thing, you can just sit down and do it. And it
Mm,
makes it a million times easier.
Yes.
Same with SEO and referrals. Okay, I want more referrals. What actions can I take in the next 30 days in order to do something that leads to that?
mhm.
Maybe it's connecting with certain vendors, maybe it's collaborating in a certain way, maybe it's attending certain events. But you can get down to like, okay, what are the specific actions that I can literally put on my calendar that make sure that I'm doing the marketing?
Okay.
We just got blown away over here.
I know. You make it sound so easy, but I
Well,
mean,
you
you
just
really
break it down,
are.
break it
Yeah.
down, break it down till it's like, what am I doing on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy enough. So, I say that now, but do you have any like tips? Can you go a little bit deeper into like any tips to be consistent and like maintain that throughout a busy wedding season, even?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think a big part of it is being realistic and knowing your own capacity and knowing your own limitations. And if you need to scale something back during wedding season, I would rather see someone having a controlled, like scaling back of how often you're doing something, how often you're posting something, than to push themselves to the point where it burns them out and now they're not
Mhm.
doing anything.
Yeah.
So if you're posting 3 times a week and you have to go down to two or one,
Yeah.
fine. At least you're still doing it and you're keeping it consistent. I think too, there's a lot we can do when we do have time to make it easier for the periods where we're just, absolutely flat out. Like, can you batch create multiple different things? I think people also underestimate the power of reusing things that already exist,
Mhm.
repurposing things that already exist, and doing like really small actions. I just had a client the other day who realized, okay, I need to do better with nurturing relationships with wedding planners. And she literally just sent this DM based off of something in this planner story and was like, oh, yeah, hey, how are things going? I haven't talked to you in a while. And this planner was like, I have someone I need to send you, actually, now that you mention it. And it was like, that was like the most profitable minute and a half
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
world. So I think recognize you're human. It's okay to scale back, make the most of things like, scheduling tools when you can, when you actually can put things together,
Hmm.
but also recognize that it's okay if you're not there all the time. Like, you don't have to be in all the places all of the time.
Yeah.
I think consistency is important, but is it more important than getting sleep during busy season? No, no, it's not. And I would just say for anyone in like that super busy process, try to differentiate, what are the things that you actually must get done versus the things that you can get done tomorrow or that you can get done next week. Because like the world's not going to fall apart if you don't post on Instagram for a week.
That's true. But man, does it feel like it does when you don't.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, it's like calculated sacrifices and recognizing that you're seeing it as imperfect. Like, oh no, I said I was going to do this and now I'm only doing this. You're the only person that knows that.
That's true.
Right.
That's true. So I want to get into a big one that I think everyone wants to know about, which is staying focused on your ideal client. All right, let's get into the hot topic here. So, how can vendors like I'm sure all vendors need this. How can vendors focus on attracting their ideal clients while keeping the door open for more general wedding inquiries? I was told from a very high-end photographer, he said you can't dip your toes in two pools. You can't keep it in like, the average market and try to be also in the luxury market and have your toes in both ways because they'll both the general market will see you as higher, and then that luxury market will see you as lower because you're just like, you're trying to balance, you're trying to have it all. But so how do you focus on your ideal client without drowning?
It's completely counterintuitive, but the more you focus, the more you become the go-to person for that
Hmm.
ideal client. So the more of those people you get.
Interesting.
Doesn't feel like that at
Yeah.
first. I totally recognize that. And it is counterintuitive, but you also get the way I talk about it is like a dartboard. So your ideal client is like that absolute bullseye. But then the rings exist. So you
Mm,
get people that maybe aren't the exact ideal client, but they're slightly different, but they have things in common. So to give you an example, an officiant that I work with, her ideal client are first generation Hispanic. They are spiritual, but not religious, but they
mm,
usually have quite a religious Catholic family.
yeah.
So her whole thing is like, how do we bridge that gap? How do we make, the grandparents feel included and involved in the ceremony while also staying true to what the couple actually wants and not just having like a regular old, mass at the wedding.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And what she found is she started attracting people who had the same problem, but from different demographics. So she started attracting Muslim couples who were typically first or second generation, not as religious, more culturally, Muslim. Same with Jewish couples, like more culturally Jewish, like participate in the larger holidays, but aren't like super big about having it involved in their wedding. So she's become known for solving this problem that multiple groups of people have found her for because that's the thing that they were specifically looking for. I do think, to your point, the price point plays a role. You can't really be like, I'm going to charge 20,000 and 2,000. Like that's just it's too disparate. I would say if you're going to do something like that, two different brands would probably be helpful. So maybe, you have a higher end and a lower end. Maybe if you're a planner, maybe it's like you have your high end business and then you have like a wedding coordination brand that is separate. But yeah, I think when you try to straddle different price points is where it gets weird. And like you said, some people think you're too expensive, some people think you're not expensive enough, and you just
Yeah.
kind of fall into this weird void.
Yeah. Which is weird. Oh my God. So I wanted to get into the ideal client. So how do people reach an ideal client that they haven't reached yet? So for example, like someone wants in the average market wants to try to reach a higher end market. I was told that they have to go where we're going. They have to look like a Gucci ad. They have to like go to, find where they're at. How do they reach those people?
A big part of it is going to where those people are.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm a big proponent of I would rather have a hypothesis and test it and have it fail and have me learn something from that so I can get closer than just be like, I'm just the photographer for people who want photos,
Yeah.
like it's so vague, nobody's interested.
Hmm.
So I think once you start to hone in, you can get tighter and tighter and kind of tune that. But
Mm,
you have to start moving in that direction and you have to make sure that also, if we're talking about moving into a higher end market, that everything you're doing aligns with those expectations so that the entire experience, whether it's the experience of them going to your website, it's the experience in them dealing with you, that it reflects that overall brand of, being higher value, higher touch. I think people forget about that. It's not just about like the end product, it's
Yeah.
also about the communication and really everything that happens in between.
Right.
But you have to take a stab in that general direction. It's never going to be perfect the first time you're like, okay, I want to move into this market. Or maybe you've just moved locations and you need to figure out like who are your people in this location. I really like researching like what are other brands doing that cater to this person.
Mm.
So if your ideal client. So this is where a lot of ideal client exercises take you. It's like, okay,
Okay.
they shop at Whole Foods, and most people will stop there. What actually matters is, why do they shop at Whole Foods?
Yeah.
Are they foodies? Does organic produce matter to them? Are they big on health? Is this like their splurge where they're treating themselves? So you can look at the brands with an eye for like, okay, what are they getting out of this? Why are they gravitating toward these brands?
Mm.
Because it's never just the fact that they are. I mean, if you're going to spend $9 on orange juice, like there's got to be a good reason for it. Even
Yeah.
if it's like you just want to feel fancy or whatever. Like there's still a reason why people do the things that they do.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, marketing. I never realized I mean, it makes sense how psychology based it is.
It is. And
Yeah.
it's funny. Like, I think a lot of people think it's like really analytical, and parts of
Uh-huh.
it are. Like, we want to look at what's working and do more of it, and look at what's not working and do less of it, obviously, to make our lives easier. But you have to understand what's going on in someone's head, because ultimately, what you're doing with marketing and sales is you're influencing someone's decision.
Right. Yeah. And using all of the messaging throughout your marketing to build that stronger brand that resonates with your ideal client. I love it.
Exactly.
So one thing that, I mean, I struggle with all things marketing, I think personally, but one thing that I really want to improve on, and you've made it feel more tangible, is social media. So how should we be using like the different platforms, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok? Like which one do you think is most important to focus on, and any tips to start out?
I'm going to give you a really annoying answer, and that it depends who your person is.
Yeah.
If your person is not on TikTok, don't be on TikTok. It's not going to be worth your time. Whereas if if you're an established business owner, you can look at your own metrics and see, okay, that's interesting. I've gotten these inquiries from this source, but I've gotten all these inquiries from that source.
Hmm.
I'm going to go more in that direction. So I like to follow the data wherever possible, just because it makes your life so much easier. So when you're determining where to show up, it's a lot of who it is. And then you have to think about what's your goal on that platform. So if your goal is to be found by potential clients, the sorts of things you're going to post are going to be a little bit different than if your goal is to network and get involved with like more planners in
Mm.
your area. And then if you get leads from it, cool. So it really depends what you're trying to do with that platform.
Hmm.
But anytime I am creating any sort of social media post, I need to know why.
Yeah.
It can't just be like, hey, this is a nice photo. Like,
Yeah.
what am I trying to do with this? Am I trying to show this particular thing that people get out of working with me? Am I trying to show this particular couple's experience so other people can see that? Am I trying to show how easy it was? Like, what are you trying to communicate whether that's like a feeling or an experience. And I think that can be a really helpful filter to make decisions about what makes sense to post because I mean, it could literally be anything.
Yeah. No, that's huge. So there's so much more to it, like you mentioned, than just posting a picture of a wedding.
Yeah. Because if you see, let's say you see a picture of a wedding and then you read the caption and it talks about how they were really concerned about, their wedding being boring for their guests. I just saw a video today. It was such a cool idea. So they didn't want to have a dance floor. They wanted to have multiple game tables. They had a bunch of Nintendo 64s around.
Whoa,
And people were just like hanging out, drinking, playing video games, like listening to music. It was exactly what this couple wanted. And
that's
if
cool.
that's your couple, like that's your content. That's what you
Yeah.
want to show. And the angle of that content is look at this idea that serves that thing that's different and that guest experience that you want to provide.
That's huge. I need to look back in my Instagram and I might be archiving a bunch of things. Like, this doesn't work.
I wouldn't even go too far back to be honest, because nobody scrolls all the way through.
Oh yeah, I hope not.
You're good.
All right, let's see here. Okay, SEO and website strategy. I feel like SEO is a hard thing for a lot of us to get down into. So, for many wedding professionals, let's see, their website is like their biggest, marketing asset, I feel like. Or no, maybe social media is nowadays, who knows? But how can vendors use SEO to attract more organic traffic, and how should their website fit into their overall marketing plan?
I definitely see it as the hub. I see it as the home because it's the only thing you own.
Mm,
Your Instagram could get shut down.
that's
It could
true.
get hacked. I've known people that has happened to. And if the whole business is based on that, that's really difficult to
Yeah.
recover from. So I see your website as your home, your hub. It's where you want to take people when they want to learn more about you. And a couple things I can say that I say to everybody when I talk to them about websites is you want to immediately catch their attention so they see this as
Yeah.
either like a hell yes or a hell no, because the worst place to be is in the middle. Like it's I'll keep this tab open and maybe I'll come back to it, but I'm going to go on to the next one. Like we all know what happens to those tabs. We all have
Yeah.
those tabs open
Yeah.
and you never go back to them. So if you can make it really clear who you are, what you do, who you do it for, just immediately,
Mm,
it's either going to click with them and you're going to stand out, or it's not going to click with them. And that's a good thing because they are not the right type of client for you. And it doesn't have to be super polarizing, but if you specialize in people who want like adventurous outdoor weddings, not only do I want to see that in the images, but like I want them to say that.
yeah.
That, I work with couples who want XYZ thing. There's lots of different ways you can phrase it, but just so that it's clear, like, is this for me or is this not for me? And then they're going to continue reading. So that's a big one, like immediately grabbing the attention and standing out as, hey, if you're this person, I'm the person for you.
Yeah. That's crazy. So you would say when they go to your site, there's probably like 3 seconds. They're just like, nah. Or they'll be like, oh
Yeah.
crap, wow, I love the emotion I'm getting from these
Yeah.
photos. Like, I want to keep scrolling.
You want to make an impression at the start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think part of it too is you want them to see themselves in it,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
both in the photos, but also in what you're saying you're all about. So, like, if it's outdoor adventurous, you don't want the photos you're using to be ballroom weddings,
Yeah.
even if you have those in your portfolio. You want them to be able to see, like, oh, okay, yeah, this is exactly the person I've been looking for. And then it does a really cool thing where it sets you into a separate category because They could hire someone else, but they're not going to get the exact thing that they want.
Yeah. You got to stand out.
Yeah.
You got to stand out in their hearts and their mind.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well,
Man.
okay, so just from listening through this conversation, like it seems like there's a lot of things that we could do that are like that don't even cost anything, just like our time and building a plan and, all of that. Is there anything like worthwhile investing in, like Google Ads or anything that we should like set aside towards a marketing budget for the year?
There definitely can be, but I always tell people advertising kind of pours gas on a fire. And if you don't already have a fire going, probably not going to do a whole lot for you. I mean, usually the problem is not a lack of eyeballs. Usually the problem is they don't see how you're different. They don't see why they should work with you instead of someone else. They don't see themselves in what you're doing. So I would say if things are going well, if people are coming to your website and they're inquiring, sure, yeah, ads could absolutely be something that you experiment with. I just would caution against using it as a nobody's booking me kind of
Yeah.
solution because
Hmm.
that's when it
Interesting.
usually results in just kind of like throwing money at the problem and it doesn't actually change anything.
Eh,
Makes sense.
So if you're like not getting any views on your Instagram or not Instagram, your website, you still don't think an ad to try to get like people to your site is doesn't work?
You could test it, but I would
Yeah.
go into it with that mindset. I think a lot of disappointment around advertising comes from going into it with the mindset of like, this is going to fix my whole life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do that. Like it, yeah, it might work, but I would structure it. I would think about it as an experiment. Like if you're in eighth grade science class, you gotta like write down your hypothesis and like what are you going to test? How are you going to test it? And then how much are you going to spend? What's the actual budget? And then, okay, then we review. So maybe you're willing to run some Google ads and spend $200 to see what you can get out of it. I would just go into it with that mentality and not what I see a lot of people do, which is like, this is my last $200. And if this doesn't work, I can't pay my rent, which is
Hey,
not a place you want to get into and then throw money at your problem.
Right.
that is insane.
So make sure you have like that attention grabber at the top and all of that that we talked about building the brand for your ideal client before you put money into it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And I think there is a place for advertising, and I think advertising can be great. But I think a lot of people treat it as like some sort of like magic potion that's going to fix everything.
Uh-huh.
When
Yeah.
if the problem is they come to your website and they're not interested, well, sending more people to the site and having them not be interested isn't going to help the situation. I think for some people, money can be better spent in getting some help,
Yeah.
whether that's they want to outsource pieces of it or, they want to get various types of support with the things that they're doing. Sure, you can absolutely spend money there. I would just make sure if you're going to outsource something like SEO, if you're going to outsource something like social media, you have to know enough about it to know if you're getting ripped off.
Yeah, for
So if
sure.
anyone promises you, you're definitely going to book this many, like, don't do,
Yeah.
no, because
Yeah.
those people exist
They do.
and they're shady
Yep.
and they just can't promise that,
No,
they
there's no
can't
way.
control someone else's decision. So I would just make sure you go in knowing enough about it that you can have a conversation with the person about strategy or you're directing it. And, you're
Mm.
working with a virtual assistant and you're saying, hey, can you create these graphics for me, these things for me? Can you put drafts together and I'll approve it, sort of thing.
I like what you said that, yeah, don't trust those people that are like promising because they can't control a person's decision. That's huge.
Mhm.
Like yeah, they can't.
Yeah. And a lot of those people exist and they will tell you, they'll promise you the world.
Oh, I've seen them. I see the little ads all over the place.
Yeah.
So
So,
can
yep.
for our listeners, can you also like go into how you can help them with like a marketing strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a framework I walk through in my membership, the Wedding Business Collective. And in it, we really create your full marketing plan. We create your 90-day plan of like, okay, what am I actually doing to execute this? And on top of that, and lots of other courses and resources, we have tons of support. So you can get questions answered when you're too close to your business and you can't make sense of it. And it just feels like, you're spiraling.
Yeah.
We have group coaching calls for that. We have reviews for that. We have a community for that. So it really kind of brings
Hmm.
everything together into that membership.
I might be looking
Amazing.
into that. Okay, let's see here. So I want to talk about the back end of things. Okay, so I like what you're mentioning about writing a lot of stuff down because that's been proven to work. And if you write your goals and write what you want to achieve, like it happens, which I need to do myself. So let's go into like measuring your results. Like, so once they have a marketing plan in place, how do you recommend vendors to track and measure their marketing efforts to know what's working and what's not?
So it's something I think is helpful to look at on briefly on a monthly basis, more in depth on a quarterly basis, kind of a glance at on a monthly basis just to help guide you.
Yeah,
Because if you've been taking a bunch of actions that month towards something, you want to see things are moving in the right direction, just as
yeah.
like a pulse check. But there are different ways you can track it. You can ask people where they found you, which is like the oldest way to track things and keep that in a spreadsheet. You can use Google Analytics to see
Mhm.
where is that traffic coming from, which of those people are filling out your form, and various CRMs have different ways of tracking lead source. But I think it's just really important to look at what I think two big questions are: what is bringing you the most leads and what is bringing you the best leads? Because sometimes those are different answers. And
Interesting.
it's easy to follow the number if you're like, okay, this is bringing me the most leads. But if you looked at, let's say, referrals are bringing you the best leads, well, what would happen if we put a little bit more thought into that, a little bit more strategy about how you can get more of those
Yeah,
because you have that available at your disposal. You get to make the decisions of, I want to do more of what's working. I want to tweak what's working. I want to get more out of this particular strategy I'm doing. Or maybe this strategy isn't working. And then you make a decision about, and I like to make these decisions on a quarterly basis of like, what am I going to keep doing? What am I going to stop doing? You can make a decision of, are you going to adjust? So
hmm.
this particular thing isn't working. Maybe I have this other idea and I want to test that out for this particular platform and see if I can get that to work. So that's going to be my focus there for the next 90 days. Or maybe you're just at a point where you're like, I'm pretty sure I've proven to myself that this doesn't work for my particular ideal client. This doesn't work for my particular business, and it's probably not worth my time. So you can get rid of it altogether. And then just focus your time on those, I don't know, maybe two, three things that do work for you. Because if you do a little bit of work on something that's already working for you, you're going to get more out of it than creating something from scratch.
Right.
That's you. Hattie, I'm gonna throw a curveball question here, like a scenario.
Okay, bring
Okay,
it.
let's do it. So let's say you have a client and they posted on Instagram, they have a beautiful website, they, are known in their community, but they're not getting any traction to their site. But they're doing all the things, they're like making Instagrams and all this stuff, whatever. But they're not getting seen. How does that person make a marketing plan to, you know, get out there to be seen?
How are we defining scene?
I don't know, just like, I don't know, traction to your website, leads, you know.
Okay. I always look for like if this whole thing is a pipe, like
Yeah.
where is the leak? There's always
Mhm.
some specific place that is the leak. So in this instance, it could be that you are not making it easy enough for people to go to your website. You're not directing them there. A lot of social media doesn't want to take people off platform.
That's
Instagram is a
true.
great example of that. But there are some things you could incorporate. You could have them comment a certain thing and then send them the link or start a DM conversation with them. You could, let's see, if the issue is getting people to the website.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would think that there are probably not either there's not a clear enough call to action and they don't have a reason to go,
Yeah.
or it's the wrong people.
Hmm.
And them not going is just them not being interested in realizing they're not a fit. So you can choose either one of those to try to tweak. I would probably defer to getting another set of eyes. Like, are you actually standing out in the way that you think you are? Are
Mm.
you clearly communicating who you're for, what you're doing? Because sometimes making that just a little bit clearer
Hmm.
is all you really need. And sometimes you can even, let's say you decide you want to focus more on a specific ideal client. Okay, you can let your vendor partners know that. And that, even in itself, can result in referrals because it's like, oh, yeah, I know someone who's going to be a good fit. So,
Mm.
yeah, the way I think about it is like find the leak and then what are the ways that we can kind of patch that?
I love that.
Great
I
advice.
hope everyone's taking notes.
So, for anyone who is feeling just stuck in their routine or just overwhelmed at the idea of marketing, what's the first actionable step that they can take to creating a marketing plan that attracts their ideal clients and starts delivering results?
So I'll give you guys the download where they can go ask these questions
Yeah.
Yeah.
of their ideal clients. I'll put that at we'll do it at evolveyourweddingbusiness.com/ vendor happy hour. I'll set that up.
All right.
Awesome.
That way you guys can go and get the kind of clarity that tells you like, okay, these people are telling me they want this, so I need to give them this.
Yeah.
I would also say when it comes to overwhelm, a lot of times when we're feeling overwhelmed, it's because we've convinced ourselves that we have to do all these things.
Mm.
And when you actually look at how you're spending your time, there's probably like 20% of your week that drives 80% of your revenue. If you really had to, like for your own health, for your own mental health, to get out of that overwhelm, to pull it back to just doing that 20%, you would have so much time and you would still be
Yeah.
getting 80% of the results. So don't fall into the trap of thinking that you have to do everything, that doing more even necessarily results in better results, because a lot of
Mm.
times it doesn't. And we're just keeping ourselves busy because we feel like we have to.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I would look at how are you keeping yourself busy and what can you just, whether it's you stop doing it altogether or you just put it on the back burner for right now to get yourself to a place where you can be back in the driver's seat of your business, it is
Mhm.
well worth it.
Man, do you have a master's degree in psychology? Because this is insane.
No, I don't like burning myself out, and I've learned a lot of
This
lessons.
is crazy because so it's not only psychological, like for the client, but also for ourselves.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you have to like trick yourself to do things managing yourself is probably the hardest thing any of us
Yeah,
actually have to
Yeah.
do.
seriously.
So we have to like dig deep into ourselves before we actually start reaching out to our clients because we're always stuck in our own ways in our heads. And we have to have a clear mind. This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why the first thing I do with people in my membership is I have them go through this really short course about figuring out where your time is going.
Mm.
And almost everybody frees up like 5 hours a week
Yeah.
because we do stuff that we feel like we have to do or that is
Hmm.
keeping us busy
Yeah.
or it's just like butt and seat in front of the computer time. We're just doing stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
is that actually delivering a result? Because if not, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Crazy,
That's
I
Yeah.
know, but
no, it is crazy. I've seen like photographers that like never update their website, but they're killing the game. And then there's people that like constantly updating, posting, and they're drowning.
yeah.
It's insane. It's insane. But yeah, I love it. I'm gonna take this course now. This is crazy.
Yeah, I think we all need to.
We all need to take this course. All right, Heidi, we want to get into a fun game called This or That.
Okay.
So we're just gonna pop some questions to you and you just pick
Rapid fire
rapid fire
answer.
style. All right, let's do it.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Instagram Reels or TikTok videos?
If I have to pick one, Instagram
All
Reel.
right.
Beach vacation or mountain getaway?
Beach.
Teleportation or time travel?
Such a hard question.
Yeah.
I'm a huge sci-fi nerd, so I'm gonna say time travel.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl, definitely.
Here we go. Live on Mars or explore the deep ocean?
Probably the ocean, because then you can come back.
Oh, seriously.
Paid ads or organic content?
Organic.
Here we go. Have an extra hour in the day or need one less hour of sleep.
Have an extra hour.
Yeah.
Social media marketing or email marketing?
Email. For myself, hands down.
Email marketing. All right. Be fluent in all languages or be able to talk to animals.
I want to talk to the animals.
That'd be awesome.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Dogs. High following influencer collaboration or micro influencer with engaged audience?
Micro all the way.
Micro.
Netflix binge or outdoor adventure?
Netflix.
I got all the weird ones here. So here we go. Find $100 on the ground or have 10,000 social media followers overnight.
I want $100 on the ground. That sounds way more fun.
DIY marketing or hire a marketing strategist?
Well, I have to say hire a marketing strategist, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are so fun. We love doing that little game with our guests.
That got me thinking about a few things. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Heidi, let's wrap it up, but we want to ask one final question. So here it is. If you could choose any superpower to have while working on marketing for a wedding vendor, what would it be and how would it help you?
I think I would want to be able to pull stuff out of people's heads
Oh,
that they keep in there because, yeah, I mean, we all know more than we think. And I think
mhm.
sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know, this. Like, I just want the download. Just give me, and I'll sift. That way I can probably give bigger feedback. So I think that would be a superpower that would help me a lot.
That'd be
Sounds
crazy.
really helpful. Yeah, not just reading their minds, but reading what they know but don't know they know deep down.
Yeah, because we all have that stuff where it's like you
Yeah.
just take it for granted.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that reminds me of that one lady, and I don't know if you saw Deadpool and Wolverine, where that new one where she like stuck her hand in this guy's head
Oh
and she
yeah.
was like, and she could like see his memories and like all this crazy stuff. That'd be you. And then you just like pull it out. My
I love
God.
it.
I love that. All right, Heidi. So where can everyone find you?
You can find me over at evolveyourweddingbusiness.com. I am Evolve Your Wedding Business on Instagram, and I'll be sure these guys have the link for that download so you can go start asking your people those questions and figure out exactly what they need to hear in your marketing.
I'm super pumped about that.
Perfect.
And everyone, you better jump on that as well. All right, Heidi, thank you so much. I've learned like a lot and I need to soak it in still, but I've learned a lot and I can't wait to use these tips for my business and get it going. So Heidi,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. This has
Yeah.
been
Thank
fun.
you.